Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube video. I'm Rad and today we're going to be looking at some of the upcoming games being released this year and early next year. Before we get this video started, I would just like to say I hope you're all having a really good Friday during these very interesting times that we're living through. This pandemic has proved to be a major stopping point for a lot of people and I hope that I can bring some joy to you today. The majority of the games that I've included in the footage are almost available on all platforms excluding Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is going to be the only PlayStation exclusive. That's enough of me talking anyway, let's jump straight into what this video is all about. The first game which I have chosen to incorporate on this list is Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Miles Morales is an upcoming action-adventure game developed by Insomniac Games and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 exclusively. To give you a little insight into the game follows up as the second sequel to the original Spider-Man game released in 2018 for the PlayStation 4. In this game, the story continues from where Marvel's Spider-Man and the downloadable content known as The City That Never Sleeps left off, during which Miles Morales was bitten by a genetically enhanced spider and gained powers similar to that of Peter Parker's. The main premise of the game is balancing a support network between his mother's campaign for the city council as well as defending his new home in Harlem and the rest of New York City from a gang war between the Roxconn Energy Corporation and a high-tech criminal army called the Underground. This high-tech underground army is led by a person called the Tinkerer. In my opinion, I think the game looks fantastic, and as you can see here on the trailer, the graphics are pretty amazing. It shows off all of the upcoming features that can be found on the PlayStation 5, and you can definitely tell the graphics improvements between that of the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. The largest changes for me can be seen in the lighting and the reflections on the water, as well as the steel and pipework that can be seen in the van. It just looks much more visually pleasing and aesthetically pleasing. It's also really nice to see a game that has intense combat scenarios, which you can see on the screen now. I can't wait to see how this will work with the DualSense controller, providing a much more intuitive and intimate experience with the game. The next game, which I think has a lot of upcoming hype, is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. As expected from a Call of Duty game, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is an upcoming first-person shooter video game developed by Treyarch and Raven Software, published by Activision. The game is the 6th installment overall and is set to serve as a follow-up to the original Call of Duty Black Ops released in 2010. However, the game is being released on November 13th, so won't be immediately available in many regions of the world. However, when it comes to Europe and other regions, the game will be available on release day. To give you a more large insight into the game, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is to be set during the early 1980s of the Cold War. Its campaign follows CIA officer Russell Adler as he pursues an alleged Soviet spy, known as Perseus, whose stated goal is to subvert the United States and tilt the balance of power towards the Soviet Union. From my experience with the beta, I really enjoyed it. The new map designs, as well as the integration of actual vehicles, finally from a COD game outside of Warzone, seems to be a nice addition to the game's experience, as well as the upcoming zombies looking very detailed and interesting. I don't think we've had a zombies quite this good in a long time, so I'm looking very forward to it. The Zombies mode is also set to have its own storyline, which should expand on the original story conducted in Black Ops 4, while also tied to the main narrative of the campaign. As expected, the graphics are about on par. I wouldn't say they're anything too fantastic, they never seem to be from Treyarch. However, let me know in the comments if this is something you'll be picking up on day one with the console, if you're in Europe, or the day after if you're in the United States and elsewhere. For the third game on this list, I've included Watch Dogs Legion. Watch Dogs Legion is an open-world action-adventure game developed by Ubisoft Toronto and published by Ubisoft. The game is now available for current-gen systems, including the PC, so you can pick it up today if you would like. As expected with any Watch Dogs game, the game features many hacking elements that the player can take advantage of to improve their chances at completing the story successfully. The game does require a set of skills that will be very vital to making sure that you have the best play experience and complete the game most effectively. Thankfully, it has been confirmed that you'll be able to pick any character you like, which I think is a really cool choice by Ubisoft. That will give players such a choice when it comes to play styles and how they would prefer to play the game. On another note, I think it's really cool, being a British person, that American game developers are finally taking advantage of countries outside of the US. I think it's a really cool thing to do. It gives them much more of an avenue to explore, and in a kind of weird way, it's nice to have the recognition. To give you a larger insight into how the game works, the game is supposed to be set in a future dystopian London, where the players take on the role of operatives working in the city's branch of DedSec as they seek to liberate it from the oppressive surveillance state, which includes a bunch of bombings that were conducted by a rogue hacker that led to the city's current situation. As of recording this video, there have been a few reviews that have come out. The game has mostly received favourable reviews in regards to its story and its setting, however there have been some major concerns over the multiple player character aspect, as well as criticism over the open world design and the poorly designed driving mechanic. Ubisoft having poor driving mechanics isn't something too new, however as long as the story is very involved and encapsulating, it won't be too much of a big deal for me. As long as the game ends up being fun, I'll be happy with it. The graphics do look pretty good, in my opinion. I think they're not anything too amazing, however the rendering distances and the use of good shadows and lighting does make it look fairly good and sort of convinces me it's very next gen, so I'm very happy with it. As I mentioned before, let me know in the comment section if this is something you've already picked up, or if this is something you're looking to pick up when the PS5 and Xbox Series X are released. The next game which I've included on this list is the highly anticipated Cyberpunk 2077. Now, unfortunately, as you know, a few days ago we received some news that this game was being delayed for 21 days due to some warehouse issues in terms of shipping the game, as well as having to test the game for 9 different versions of consoles, that including the Xbox One and X, the Series X and S compatibility issues, PlayStation, the PS5, PC, Stadia, and so on. In my opinion, this game looks like a fantastic buy. It looks like it's going to have a very interesting story, something reminiscent somewhat of Watch Dogs. The graphics do look very visually pleasing, like they're not the best quality, but something about them just looks very cool. I can't explain it, I just really like the look of this game. It's definitely something I'll be buying. Honestly, I'm perfectly fine with them delaying the game if it means we end up getting a more polished product at the end of it, rather than something that's released half finished and then has to be patched later on. Just so I don't spoil too much, it's set to be a first-person shooter. From what we know of the pre-release gameplay, it looks like they will be able to have multiple different builds, including melee, blades, handguns, shotguns, rifles, sniper rifles, and hacking. So it is pretty much just another Watch Dogs, but I mean, it's really cool. I don't mind these sort of games. I think they're fun, they keep you going, they're adrenaline rush, and it's definitely something I'll be buying. Let me know again in the comments if this is something that you'll definitely be grabbing when it is finally released. The next game I've included on this list is definitely one of the most hyped up games for. This is Demon's Souls. The original Demon's Souls was originally released in February 5th, 2009 in Japan and October 6th, 2009 in North America, and for the rest of the world on June 25th, 2010. This is definitely one of the most graphically updated remakes I've ever seen, aside from Final Fantasy, and it's definitely something that will be interesting. It appears to be a hack and slash style game, which we all love. Everyone loves a good one of those. I mean, we've had friends and family that all love a good game of Tekken and Street Fighter, so this is definitely something for those people, but maybe the more experienced. It is worth noting, if you're going to buy this for a little kid, I would highly advise against it, seeing as the game's difficulty is very difficult and they'll probably end up getting very angry with it. This is definitely going to be a patience test, and I do not want to be responsible for any broken controllers. Yeah, I don't want that weight on my shoulders. For those who haven't played the original, I will give you a brief insight, but I won't go too into detail. It takes place in the kingdom of Boletaria. Due to the misuse of magic known as soul arts, Boletaria was attacked by a being called the Old One. In my opinion, this game looks visually great, the reflections are amazing, the combat looks quite exhilarating, and it's definitely something I'll consider buying. I'm not sure if I'll buy it based on the difficulty reasons. However, it's up to the player, and this is, after all, for the players. The next title I have included on this list is Godfall. Godfall is an upcoming title for the PlayStation 5 exclusively, as well as the PC. To give you a short insight into the game is to be set in a high fantasy setting, splitting into 5 different realms. Those realms include Earth, Water, Air, Fire, and Spirit. The player will have the option to choose from 5 different weapon classes, based on which of their armor sets, valor plates they equip. The weapon choices will include a longsword, dual blades, a polearm, a 2-handed warhammer, and a 2-handed greatsword. Visually, I always love games that don't have too intense graphics, especially ones like this, because I think that opting for something a bit more colourful and bright definitely brings the game to life a lot more than if it were to be dull and dark. Furthermore, the inclusion of multiplayer also being included into this definitely makes it a worthwhile buy. I can see me and some of my friends getting down on this game and enjoying killing some beasts. The game has been described as a looter slasher, but there is also a story mode to complete within it, so there is also that aspect that will make the game much more interesting to see where the story takes us. Completing these stories will also allow the player to receive better loot and gear that will make their fights a little bit easier as the game goes on. I think games like this also show the adaptiveness and creativeness of smaller studios, seeing as Counterplay Games is only a 75-person studio located in California, and it should definitely serve as a vocal point for those studios who can't seem to get anything right. Bethesda. As previously said, I'd love to know your thoughts on this game. The next game I've included on the list is more so an honourable mention. It is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. On this video, I've chosen to include this game as an honourable mention, mainly for the fact that everyone knows what to expect from an Assassin's Creed game at this point. Graphically wise, the game seems to be okay. I wouldn't say it's anything on the realm of Godfall. It does look visually decent, but it's nothing too major about the game that appears to jump out to me. Just to give you some insight into the game is to be set in 873 AD, where the Vikings overtake the United Kingdom. And that will conclude today's video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a thumbs up. If you didn't, you also know where that button is, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace.